But I thought it might be appropriate to have somebody come take the floor just for a minute. Happened to be a state legislator from 2006 to 2010, and he's been representing you in Congress since then. And he's a very good friend, a very competent person, and someone who I've got a lot of respect for, who's done a very good job and has stood firm and showed that he's got a spine. And there's a lot to be said for that. And he's got one other thing that sets him apart from everybody else. He's got a secret weapon. It's called Becca. So with that, Congressman Labrador.
It's so great to be here with you. It's been an honor to represent you, and it's been fun to be in Washington, D.C. And most of the fun that I've had in Washington, D.C. has been with one person who you're going to get to know here in just a few minutes. Jim Jordan and I met each other almost on the first day that I went to Congress. Jim was finishing his first term, right? And his office was on the 5th floor of one of the buildings back there, the Longworth building, which is where I moved into the 5th floor. And I happened to move in right next door to Jim Jordan. He had the corner office. I was next to him. And a couple of years later, a guy you may have heard about, Mark Meadows, just moved in right down the hall. So that was the least favorite floor of the Republican leadership. Because you had Jim Jordan, Raul Labrador, and Mark Meadows, and we were always scheming. We were always trying to figure out how to actually keep the promises that we made to the people of our district. Because what you learn in Washington, D.C. really early is that people say some things campaigning that they actually don't mean. I don't know, you may be shocked about that, but they don't mean it. And for me, maybe I'm a little bit naive, but I went back there and I believe that I should keep all the promises that I made to my constituents. I believe that I should do exactly what I said I was going to do. That if I said I was going to vote for less spending, I would vote for less spending. If I said I was going to vote for less government, I would vote for less government. And I didn't care what the Senate wanted, which is what we always heard from our leadership. Our leadership always told us, well, we can't do that because the Senate won't pass it. We can't do that because at the time it was Harry Reid. The worst part was when we got the Republican Senate, they told us, oh, we still can't do that because the Republicans won't pass it in the Senate. But you had three guys in a row, especially Jim and I for the first couple of years when Mark wasn't there yet, where we were constantly trying to figure out how do we get the party to do the things that we said we were going to do. After a while we got frustrated and we decided that we needed a group of people because one person out of 435 is a very difficult number to beat against. So every time you're standing by yourself in Congress and you're 1 out of 435, you never get your way. But we learned something that was really valuable. That when you can get 40 people to stand together for something, you can actually move legislation. You can actually change legislation. You can actually do the things that you said you were going to do. We weren't always successful, but we were more successful than when it was just 1 out of 435. So Jim, Mark, and I, and 6 other members of Congress decided that we were going to start a group. And that group is the Freedom Caucus that you may have heard about. Jim was the first chairman of the Freedom Caucus and has been voted as the honorary chairman for life of the Freedom Caucus. His wife, Holly, is here with us. And just like Beck and I are a team, these two are a team. They're always together. They're always making decisions together. And they love each other. They have an amazing family. And more important than the politics, Jim has been probably my dearest, closest friend in Washington, D.C. and he's one of the people that I'm going to miss. So without further ado, please welcome.
There are folks in politics who you wish weren't. Most of them are Democrats, right? And then there are people like Raul Labrador, who you are glad chose public service and public life. He is a true friend, and you all know it. That's why he's sitting there. The right values, the right perspective, the right energy, the right intensity to go fight for this is what he said, the things he told you he was going to fight for. And Becca and Raul have, as Raul said, have been dear friends to Polly and I, and we're going to miss them. We're going to miss them greatly. But the good news is, you're getting another guy who you were also glad chose public service. He's going to follow in that. We've gotten to know Russ and some of his kids already and his family, and he's going to continue that tradition. And look, it's important you have people like Raul and Russ in public life today, because the left has gone completely crazy. And there's just no other way to say it. I did an op-ed the other day with Mark, and we started off, we said, think about today's left. They applaud Kaepernick when he disrespects the flag. They embrace Governor Cuomo when he says America was never that great. And they cheer on Maxine Waters when she says, go out and harass anyone who supports our president. That's today's left. In this election, here and across the country, you can frame it up real simple in my mind. The contrast could not be sharper, could not be clearer. The left, if they win, they are going to try to do certain things. They are going to try to raise your taxes. They are going to try to abolish ICE and never enforce the border security laws, never build the border security wall. They will continue to socialize medicine, and they will investigate the heck out of the first family, which will lead to impeaching of the president. That's where they want to go. So that's where the left wants to take us. And contrast that with the record of achievement in the last 21 months under President Trump's leadership. Now just think about this. We put this list together a while back, but regulations reduced, taxes cut, economy growing at 4.2%, lowest unemployment in 40 years, Gorsuch and Kavanaugh on the court. We're out of the Iran deal. The embassy is in fact in Jerusalem. Hostages have come home from North Korea, and oh, by the way, we have a new NAFTA agreement. Yeah. That is pretty amazing. When you think about this, it couldn't be clearer, couldn't be sharper, the different visions for where we want to... Now look, there's still things we've got to get done. Raul's exactly right. When you get to Washington, there's literally a million reasons why you can't do what you know you should do, and more importantly, what you promised the voters you were going to do. All kinds of excuses. Well, we really can't do that because the Senate really can't. So we got some things we got to get done. Well, we weren't probably the two biggest promises made in the 2016 campaign. Build the border security wall and replace Obamacare. And they haven't got done. Now, cutting taxes and regulations, that's all good. And look, I don't want to downplay that. That's been helpful to this amazing economic growth we're experiencing. But we haven't done those two. We haven't reformed welfare. I mean, the idea in today's world, in today's America, with the economic growth we have, the idea that you can be a single adult with no dependent children, single guy with no dependent children, and get taxpayer support and not have to do something for it, is just ridiculous. So we have to reform welfare as well. So there's some important things to get done, but this election, I think, is as clear as you can make it. The other thing that's important, and I'll just talk real quick on this, and we'll take some questions. I think is what the boss wants to do. So, I actually believe, and I don't think this is overly dramatic. I actually believe freedom today in this country has never been attacked more. And you can go down the list, but I mean, start with what's happening on colleges and universities. On the campuses. Have you guys followed some of this? Safe spaces, free speech zones. They have this new term. We're doing a series of hearings in the Oversight Committee, which Mark and I are on. We've done subcommittees. We've done these joint hearings. They have this new term called bias response teams. You heard this? Now that's a fancy name for tattletale, right? They literally run around campus, and if you say something politically incorrect, you can get in trouble. Disciplinary action on your official record. It's crazy. I mean, I'm old enough to remember. I thought you went to college to do politically incorrect things, right? But today you get in trouble for it. And so we had this. We've had several. The first hearing we had was we looked at the Johnson Amendment, the idea that pastors were doing this thing on the First Amendment. The idea that pastors should be able to preach what they think the good Lord's leading them to preach, and not have their tax-exempt status jeopardized from the IRS. It was a good hearing. We had the second. We had Ben Shapiro and Adam Carolla. Adam Carolla was hilarious, by the way. You got nothing better to do. Watch his opening statement. He just stole the show. The third one, we had a bunch of professors in. And I asked this one professor in the middle of this hearing, I said, Professor, on a college campus, can a safe space and a free speech zone be at the same location? You got to think about it for a second, right? I said, or is it like, it's kind of like, remember we learned in school, the Venn diagram, where there's a little bit of overlap. So like you could have 1 foot in a safe space and 1 foot in the free space, and there's a little bit of area in between where you're safe and free, right? Which is weird. Because where's a free speech zone supposed to be? Yeah, it's called America. It's called the First Amendment. So the one professor I said to near the end of the hearing, I go, Professor, on a safe space on a college campus, could I say this sentence? Donald Trump is president. He began his response with, well, Congressman, it depends. Think about that. So I interrupted him, which I like to do sometimes in these hearings if I think the witness is saying something stupid, right? And I said, it's a fact. He got elected on November 8, 2016, got sworn in on January 20th, 2017. He's the president, lived in 1,600 countries. But this is the level of craziness the left will take us when they start attacking fundamental liberties. And it doesn't stop there. I wish it did. Think about these big social media companies, right? Now this is a little different because this is private companies, but the influence and impact they have on our lives, I see some of you got your phones up. We're all driven by these crazy things, right? Raul laughs at me because I had a flip phone until about 1.5 years. But now, this is like, you have these, and I'm like so crazy, I got 2 of them now, right? So you got one for official and one for campaign and all. So, but this summer, I didn't even know what this term meant. Any of you ever heard the term shadow ban?
Oh yeah. Yes.
I had no idea. I'm old, my kids all knew. Our staff knew it, and we said, the staff told me, you and 3 other members of Congress are being shadow banned by Twitter. Okay, what does that mean? Well, when they're on Twitter, it's tough to go to the Dropbox, tough to find, you can't get to your, so they're making it difficult for people to follow our Twitter account. And so, 4 members, now remember, 435 in the House, 100 in the Senate, 535 members of Congress, 4, Gates, Meadows, Nunes, Jordan, get shadow banned. And of course, Jack Dorsey at Twitter says, well, this was just a glitch in our algorithm. And I literally, they said that, and I said, what'd you put in the algorithm? The names Gates. So we're getting it from them, and I haven't even got to government. So think about this. 4 years ago, actually 5, 6 years ago now, it started even before that, but an agency with the power and clout that the IRS has, systematically, for a sustained period of time, targeted people just like all of us. And they target you for what? Your political beliefs. You think about the First Amendment. Your right to practice your faith the way you want. Your right to assemble. Your right to petition your government. Freedom of the press. But what's the most fundamental liberty we have under the First Amendment? Our right to do what?
Speech.
To do what I'm doing right now. To speak. And when the founders were putting together our free speech, this whole idea of the Constitution, the First Amendment, what kind of speech were they most focused on?
Political.
Speech that's political in nature. And what did the IRS go after? And I said, this is as bad as it gets. And Raul and I were all fighting, going after this. This is as bad as it gets until we saw what happened over the last couple of years with what the FBI did. What the FBI did, FBI and the Justice Department, is even worse than that. And it's hard to say that. But think of it, I won't get into all this, but just understand when one party's campaign opposition research document gets used, gets taken to a secret court to get a warrant to go spy on the other party's campaign, it doesn't get more wrong than that. The Clinton campaign paid the law firm Perkins Coie, who hired Glenn Simpson and Fusion GPS, who went out and hired a foreigner, Christopher Steele, who went and talked to Russians to put together this fake, fraudulent, non-credible dossier. The dossier was funneled by one of Glenn Simpson's employees, Nellie Orr, to her husband, Bruce Orr, at the Justice Department, a top official, who then gave it to the FBI, and they used that document to go spy on the Trump campaign in America. So when you think about freedom and what's at stake and why elections matter, particularly this cycle, this midterm cycle, that's what's at stake. Jefferson had a great line. He says, when the government fears the people, there is liberty. When the people fear the government, there is tyranny. Ask yourself a simple question. Which direction are we trending? And that tells us everything. That's why you send a guy like Raul who understands the Constitution and your liberties and fight for it. And that's why you're going to send Russ there as well. But it's critical. And I would tell you this, Russ is going to win. You all know it. I mean, keep working hard the next 12 days, but he's going to win. But you all got friends and family around the country in other congressional districts. Call them up and say, look, this is the year you go vote. Because this is what's... Here's the other thing that happens, and I will stop here. The other thing that happens is when freedom starts getting attacked, well, maybe two things. Remember when Maxine Waters did a rant?
Which one?
The first one, back in June, you know, you harass them at the gas station, at the restaurant, you get up in their face. Remember she did this? Like,
Yeah.
And look, there's just no place for that. There's no place for this crazy stuff that took place yesterday. This is all bad. But I would say when Maxine Waters did it, 2 days later, Holly and I, remember Holly back here somewhere. Holly, first time we'd ever went to the theater in D.C. Raul and Becca know this story. We're going to the theater. We'd never been there. We're walking to the theater. There's a big crowd of people. And we're like walking up this ramp. And I literally just got our tickets out. Because I'm looking for the lady in the red jacket, right? Like, you're going to go in there. I don't know where we're going. We're looking. So I'm just walking along. Big crowd. And all of a sudden I hear this voice behind us. Some lady's voice. And she goes, Jim Jordan. And just the way she said it, I'm like, oh no. Like, we're going to get I call it the treatment. We're going to get the treatment. And so I didn't want to look around. You know, they're always filming. So I just kind of did a quick glance back, and then she just started amping it up, and it was like, Jim Jordan, evil, shame. And she puts her hands up, shame. She makes it big. Now I'm really looking for the lady in the red jacket. Right? And so she keeps doing it. And Polly, I think Polly's just tougher than me. Polly turned around and looked at her. All Polly said was, please stop. Because it was a scene. And then the lady goes, I can't believe you're married to this man. I told Polly later, you should have said, like, I can't believe it either. I could have done a lot better than this guy, right? But I mean, think about that. We would never do that to people. It's just not decent, common. It's just like not what you do. So this is what's at stake. This is why it's important. And look, we live in the best country ever. My background's in wrestling. Where's Caleb? We got a wrestler here. Where's Caleb? Right here. We got a young wrestler here too. We've talked. My background's in wrestling, and wrestling's been. I feel fortunate. We've traveled all over the country. Been to what was then the Soviet Union. Been to Cuba a couple times. And I tell folks, you go to places like that, you thank the good Lord you live here.
Oh yeah.
I was in 1987 in Moscow in February. I tell people. Moscow in February, it's like 400 below zero. You really thank the good Lord you live here. I was in Cuba in 88 and 90. And 1988 in Cuba, they were driving 59 Chevys. 1990 in Cuba, they were driving 59 Chevys. My guess is in 2018 in Cuba, they're driving 59 Chevys. And it's not the people. People are people. We're all in need of God's grace. But it's the system. When you have systems that stifle liberty and don't allow free enterprise, bad things happen. And we all know it because we've lived in the greatest country ever. But you got folks on the left who somehow haven't figured that out. And that's again, that's why it's important. So, all right, I'll stop talking.
Questions for Congressman Jordan, please feel free. And I'm going to just do a really quick wrap up. So let's take 5 minutes or so, and Steve, go ahead.
I got a question. With all the reports coming out, and what you alluded to, Russian collusion on the Hillary side, when is it going to come out that you have actually infiltrated Russian agents within the government?
Well, we haven't heard anything like that. I do think there are some people who are going to face some criminal liability. I think Andy McCabe's in trouble, former deputy director. I think Peter Strzok potentially is. McCabe lied 3 times under oath to the Inspector General, to Michael Horowitz. He faces a criminal referral. So he's got criminal liability. I think Glenn Simpson has some problems as well. Glenn Simpson's the guy who ran Fusion GPS, if you follow this story. Because, you know, the Fifth Amendment's an important privilege and right we have under the Constitution, in the Bill of Rights. But you exercise the Fifth Amendment when you think there's reasonable belief that you face some criminal liability. So Glenn Simpson exercised his Fifth Amendment rights just last week. So we'll see. I don't know that. I do know this. Tell me when you've ever seen this at any federal agency, where James Comey, director of the FBI, fired. Andy McCabe, deputy director of the FBI, lied 3 times under oath, fired. Chief counsel at the FBI, Jim Baker, demoted, then left the FBI. Lisa Page, FBI counsel, demoted, then left the FBI. Peter Strzok, deputy head of counterintelligence at the FBI, demoted, then fired. 5 of the top people. The top people. And not just the top people, but the top people who ran the Clinton investigation, launched and ran the Russian investigation, all out at the top of the FBI. Never seen that happen in any other, not even the IRS, all that they did wrong. Really only 2 people got in trouble there. So it smells to high heaven at what was going on there. Now, this is not to disparage the FBI agents, the rank and file agents. I think most of them are good guys doing great work. But that top level was really bad.
Good at Dark.
I've had a secret clearance, and if I had violated that clearance, I'd be wearing bracelets.
Yeah. Yeah.
And how can Hillary, I almost said Hillary, but how can Hillary get away with lying to Congress, what she did with Benghazi, and how come she's still around? Why can't Congress do something about her?
Yeah, 3 quick points. One, I hear that question more than any question across the 4th District of Ohio, which I get to represent, and across the country as I'm traveling around. People are fed up, rightly so, with the double standard. One set of rules for us regular folk, different set for the politically connected like Clinton, Comey, Lynch, Lerner, all these folks. So that ticks them off. I will tell you, she should have been prosecuted. I believe it. And frankly, the FBI chief, the very guy I just talked about, Jim Baker, who was demoted and left the FBI, he believed that she should have been prosecuted as well until Comey talked him out of it, basically at the end in July of 16. So it's frustrating, and it's another sign of how critical a moment in our history I think we're at. Because remember, the other thing that happens when freedom starts getting attacked is you start having people in positions in our government who aren't square with us, who aren't straightforward with us as citizens. So remember, I served on the Benghazi committee. The night of that attack, 9/11/2012, at 10:08 that evening, Secretary Clinton issues a statement that was the official statement of our government that night, after this terrible thing had happened to 4 of our Americans, and what happened at our facility there in Benghazi. So at 10:08, she issues this statement. Now remember, at 10:08, the fight's not over. Tyrone Woods is still on the roof of the annex fighting. Glenn Doherty is yet to get on the roof of the annex. The mortars haven't even hit. They're still fighting for their lives, protecting our fellow citizens. But she issues a statement. Some have sought to justify this vicious behavior as a response to inflammatory material posted on the internet, blaming the video before the fight's even over, lying to the American people because she knew it wasn't a video that was the catalyst for this. The very next day, in a conversation with the Egyptian Prime Minister, she says this: the film had nothing to do with it. It was a planned attack, not a protest. So misleading the American people, which is just wrong. I think people, as I mentioned before, some are going to be held accountable. I don't think Hillary Clinton's ever going to be prosecuted, though.
We had those C-130s that could have roto-chilled the whole area around the compound, and they wouldn't let assets come to help.
Assets didn't even take off.
That's right.
Yeah.
2 points. Where is Jeff Sessions? And the second point is, can passports be restricted or can't